Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 1, episode 2 of Wednesday. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I got to get some casting stuff out of the way first, because I kept wondering why I recognized the actor who played Tyler and Xavier, why I recognized him. Well, it turns out the actor who plays Tyler was in the show Your Honor. He was the son in Your Honor, if you've ever seen that show on Showtime. And Xavier is played by he was the actor. He's in the show The Gifted on Fox. It was a show a couple years ago. It was basically an X-Men show on Fox. He was there's a core family at the core of that story, and he was the son in that situation. So I kept wondering why I recognized him, and that's why I recognized both of them. But either way, putting all that aside, immediately picking up in the aftermath, we also kind of get some answers I was curious about. I was like, right, did Wednesday, like, how did she just leave the body where it was? Like, apparently she ran into Bianca, told Bianca to tell somebody, the sheriff, and as well as everyone, cops and dogs went out there, but couldn't find Rowan's body. So the question then becomes right, did she make this all up? Turns out everyone's going to think she does, because Rowan just automatically pops up and you're like, what the hell is going on here? It's like, you were definitely ripped to shreds. I mean, granted, you weren't torn apart like the previous bodies. That's why I still believe who's ever out there killing the other 3 victims, it was not the person that saved Wednesday. I think that's someone else entirely, but it's like, what's that all about? So now everyone is thinking, even her therapist is kind of thinking she's making up, which I also was like, why do I recognize her therapist? I was wondering if it was because I was like, isn't she part of the comedy duo? Is it like Garfunkel? And I think I looked it up earlier. It's like Garfunkel and Oates. I was like, why does she seem so familiar? And I was like, I thought that was her, but I was like, no, it must be my imagination. It's like, no, it is her. So I just, once again, just another, really quick casting thing. I just thought was interesting that I was like, oh yeah, recognizable actor that I should, talk about. I didn't even bring up, obviously, I kind of didn't need to, but Luis Guzman and Catherine Zeta-Jones, obviously last episode, didn't have to bring that up. Just kind of, but it's putting all that aside, going back, focusing on the episode, sorry. But that's what kind of confused. I was like, what's up with that? And the fact is, everyone was like, right, we need to get Rowan to leave immediately. He can't talk to anybody. He later on gets expelled. I'm like, wait, what? Why is he getting expelled? And Weems won't say anything. I'm like, what the hell? And then then we find out whoever it is a shapeshifter. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then it turns out it's Weems. And I was like, wait, no, it couldn't have been her. But then I was like, no, stupid. Wednesday wanted to talk to the sheriff alone when she was talking about some of that stuff. So I was like, yeah, Weems was outside the room. So I was like, of course. So I was like, and I also wonder why Thornhill was so okay with it, where she was like, no, you're not supposed to be here Wednesday, and took off. And the moment Rowan got out the car, she didn't say anything to him, didn't say goodbye, or oh, you were good too. It's like, no, he immediately got out the car. So Thornhill has to be in on it too. I don't think they're responsible for what's going on, but I think they are covering their bases. I'm going to assume that Weems is going to probably send letters or messages back home to Rowan's family to make it seem like he's still alive and okay, whereas everyone else at the school thinks Rowan went home. So that's where my immediate thoughts are with that, but I don't think they're involved with it. I think they're just covering up, because it's like, yes, for one, they don't need the sheriff looking for suspects at the school already, so it's like, hey, let's pretend like there was no murder at all, but also it's because they don't want to because this place is a sacred place. It's the place for outcasts, and if it gets shut down, they'll have nowhere to go, nowhere else to call home, a place to feel like they belong or fit in. So that's why they're probably going above and beyond. It's interesting too, because, it still means a lot for Thornhill, because we find out she's the only teacher at the school that's a normie. And I thought that was interesting. But she said she was too odd to be a normie and, not odd enough to be an outcast. So she's kind of stuck in the middle. And I think that, obviously, once again, the neat parallels, that casting had to be done by choice, by, once again, having Christina Ricci play that, in comparison to Wednesday. It's like they're both in that same boat. And what was that conversation that they had? I thought was such a beautiful line, where it's like, Wednesday said the line of, I pretend like I don't care whether people like me or not, but she's like, deep down, I really enjoy it. People kind of not liking or whatever. And it's like, right, don't ever lose that. And it's like, what? Never lose not letting other people define you and being like, even saying that even flowers can grow in shade. And I was like, I thought that was such a beautiful conversation between them, which immediately made me go like, because she's the one teacher Wednesday's kind of hitting it off with, and just because it's Christina Ricci, I'm just like, they're not going to let that character's not going to survive this season. Like, either she's going to be revealed to be the big bad of it all, but I think more so than anything, that character's going to die. Or, I mean, she could fake her death and then be revealed to be the big bad, but I'm like, nah, I think that character's going to die partway through this season. I think I'm bummed about it. But I also, like, I can never see Christina Ricci in glasses again. No, because if you've seen Yellow Jackets, and her character in Yellow Jackets wears glasses, and I'm just like, what that character is, without spoiling it, if you've not seen Yellow Jackets, you need to see Yellow Jackets. But it's like, yeah, when Christina Ricci wearing glasses and stuff, I can't help but think of her character, Misty from Yellow Jacket, so can never trust Christina Ricci in glasses anymore. It's kind of what that character's done for me. Any other role she's in, I'm like, oh, you're wearing glasses? I don't know if I could trust you. So it kind of gives me that same energy, but like I said, I get the feeling like she's going to end up dying. But either way, Wednesday is doing everything she can to investigate everything on her own, because she's like, right, like what's bothering her the most is like there's something going on here, like something's not right, like trying to figure out this mystery of like the Rowan thing kind of threw her for a loop, but she's like, someone's got to be covering this up. So she later on is with Tyler, who's actually helping her kind of investigate, because, well, I don't know whether it's fully him sticking it to his dad, but him and his dad super don't get along, which I guess might be some interesting parallel to, like, obviously Wednesday and her mom not getting along, because we find out from Principal Weems that Morticia did have visions. We don't know if she still has them, but when she was around Wednesday's age is when she started having them. And it's like, right, they're unreliable and chaotic, and your mom started wondering whether or not she was going crazy. So this episode really pushes that, especially from Principal Weems being like, yeah, you might be a lot more like your mom than you will ever give credit for. And it's like, that kind of rubs Wednesday the wrong way. But I think that is such an interesting thing, because I thrown that out there last episode, like a conversation she had with her mom made it almost seem like Morticia knew that she was starting to have visions, maybe because she's like, right, I had them and maybe they can't pass down to you in some shape or form. So there's that angle of it. But obviously like I said, going back to it, like Tyler and his dad kind of have issues, because his dad was like, whoa, God, what was it? Oh, what do you talk about in therapy? I'm paying for it. It's like, that's the whole patient confidentiality thing, but I guess for him it's like, I'm the parent, I'm paying for it. He's like, I talk about mom, you remember her? And he kind of gets silent for a bit. So I guess she died, and things are just because I feel like he wouldn't bring that up if it was a situation of like his mom left. Maybe there's a possibility, but I feel like it's more so like she died and maybe he threw himself in work and he's just never been it might be that thing of, yes, at one point in time, maybe he was all about his work, but there was at least some balance with his mom, with Tyler's mom in his life. But without her, like his dad just going full blown work, and that's all. I wonder, was she murdered or something? The fact is, he's going so harder to paint when it comes to this murder. Maybe she was even. I was like, no, you'd think if she was murdered, I was about to say murdered by someone from Nevermore, you'd think Tyler would have some of that resentment. Not unless she was and just Tyler doesn't know about it. But it's just like, it just seems like his dedication to this case just seems like it might be a little close to home. So like she might have been a victim of like an attack or something, and maybe someone from Nevermore, a supernatural, was kind of responsible. We'll have to wait and see what kind of ends up coming from that, or I don't know. But yeah, like Tyler's like stalking his dad, and he's like, oh, you must think I'm weird. And she's like, no, I stalk my parents on like a regular basis. It's kind of where Wednesday's perspective on things are. But she has a vision, because she had previously talked to Xavier about Rowan, and it's like, yeah, he I guess everyone knew about the telekinesis thing. That was just a big surprise to Wednesday, but like everyone else already knew about it. And Rowan was like, yeah, like he's always been an odd duck, but it's like more recently he's been more frantic and weird. And obviously he's part of the archery club. I love the whole thing of calling him a rich snob, saying that he always had everything on a silver platter. He's like, girls in girls in like glass houses, and she's like, should throw bigger stones. I love that. Also having to show off throwing the apple in the air and bullseyeing the apple and the bullseye, and just Xavier being like, ouch. I think it just kind of a blow to the ego, like it was kind of the twofold blow. But I also love that situation with Thing where Wednesday sent him to follow Rowan, but he lost him. It's understandably, it's like no one accounted for shapeshifter under, what to be on the lookout for. You wouldn't have been able to deal with that. So, moment Thing came back, I was like, wait, you lost him? You only had one job. It's like, a lefty wouldn't have failed. I was like, Jesus, that's a low blow. That's such a, obviously for Thing, that's got to be the worst compliment. That's a compliment, insult. And I love that Enid and Thing are hitting it up. It's like, no, like we got manicures and everything, and he kind of opened up Thing up to me, Thing is a person too. It's like, well, it's just a ham. It's like, you get the point. It's like, Thing wants you to apologize, and she goes in there and she's like, right, I was kind of harsh with you. I'll fix my toe next time, and walks away. It's like, let's get to work. And Thing throws a magazine and starts, and it's just kind of like, right, wanted a proper apology from her. It's like, right, something's eating you up. So she tells him about the prophecy and everything. And he kind of like, I love the whole, like, him rubbing his hand on her hand. And she's just looking at him. He just kind of like scoots back slowly. He's like, right, sorry, I crossed the line. I know you're not into the touchy-feely stuff, so. I do think it's also interesting, really quickly, circling back to something I did bring up earlier, was like, obviously, Wednesday's therapist. Her therapist is also Tyler's therapist. So I think maybe I don't know if she's just like the only therapist in like the general area or what. It makes you wonder who else might be a patient. Maybe it's just them, but it's like, oh, that just feels too coincidental. But, maybe Tyler was most like, whoa, Tyler even said, he was like, yeah, mine is court mandated too. So that's interesting. Maybe he kind of rebelled and kind of did some stuff just because of whatever the situation is with his mom. Maybe that sent him kind of spiraling. Once again, an even deeper parallel. It's like, right, their moms being kind of like some complicated fixtures in their lives in some shape or form, whether it's Morticia for Wednesday or Tyler and whatever his circumstances are with his mom. I wonder if we're going to find out about the Xavier thing just being a thing that he's always had a thing for Wednesday ever since they met like years and years ago. He's always had a thing for her. You never forget your first love type of situation. Because, like, right, he tried to impress her with like the spider thing, which I'm like, I didn't know you had a whole Psy thing going on where you could basically bring your drawings to life, maybe specific ones. I use Psy because, like, obviously that's where my mind goes. Obviously, you could go like Okami from the video game. Well, Okami. Amaterasu from Okami. So there's also a Mickey Mouse game that kind of had that same element of bringing like pictures to life, if I remember correctly. Either way, I didn't know. I'm going to go with the Psy element because he's kind of like Xavier seems like a sad boy. Psy kind of had like that very stoic sad boy energy going on. So yeah, I'll use Psy as an example. But it did seem like he was trying to. He's like, no, go ahead and admit you were impressed a little bit. But also, he has a drawing of Wednesday. The fact is that later on when he's talking to, Bianca, I was blinking on her name for a second there. She was like, right, that's why you're keeping an eye on Wednesday like a hawk, because you were worried that Rowan was going to do something to her. So I guess because Wednesday had a vision when she touched Rowan's glasses and saw them arguing, and I guess it's because he found out, like, wait, you're obsessed with Wednesday. He probably doesn't know the specifics, but it's like, right at the time, he was like, yeah, he was acting erratic and probably being a little crazy and bringing up Wednesday and like, oh, she's going to be evil and stuff like that. So maybe that's what kind of sent, like, Xavier to kind of go all protective mode. But we also kind of learn about him and Bianca, and it's like, right, the troubles of dating a siren. It's like, right, how, and this has come up recently in some other reviews. Well, I was just talking about it in this week's episode of Reginald the Vampire about how, like, yeah, I brought it up last week and this week, but the whole, like, being able to mind control someone's not a good thing. It's also an interesting time into, like, the whole siren thing, too, because, slight spoilers, but it comes up in Wakanda Forever, so I thought that was kind of interesting, too. But either way, because she said, oh, I made one mistake. And I guess it's like, right, when she's able to kind of control you with her voice like any siren could, I guess it eventually weighs on you like, right, how do I know anything that I feel anything between us is real? Because it's like, right, how do I know that we made a good couple, or is that just how you wanted me to feel? Because she makes it seem like she probably controlled him one time and that was enough for them to break up because he realized I guess it's like, right, maybe his eyes were open to her just not being maybe he kind of just excused a lot of like her mean girl status and just behavior and just kind of let a lot of that slide. So... And her biggest issue with Wednesday is like, right, I'm not obsessed with her. It's just she walks around here acting like she's better than everyone, which I think is ironic considering Bianca walks around acting like she's better than everyone else, you know? And obviously sabotaging Enid's team during this like Edgar Allan Poe thing that's going on. So obviously Wednesday joins up and it's like, yeah, because I'm going to crush Bianca, but I love Enid being like, yeah, but it's mostly because we're friends, right? I'm like, you really think you're going to get that out of Wednesday being like, yes, because we're friends. It's like, no, you're not going to get that answer. You're going to be severely disappointed. I also love when I guess she's officially joined the Beekeepers Club or whatever. And the fact is that Enid had to be there with Eugene, which Eugene, I love the whole thing of like, right, you only have you have a less than 1% chance with her ever liking you. He's like, so you're saying I have a shot, you know? So it's like, yeah. He was super hyped about that. And also talking about like, oh yeah, Cleopatra and a honey bath. It's like, have you ever taken a honey bath before? Obviously she has her thing about bees, but he was like, don't worry, like I got you, you know. So we'll see if anything comes about with that. If anything, it seems like the Gorgon dude that we met the first episode, that dude seems to be who she's at, because I think that's who she, like during the competition, I think that's who she was turning to and smiling at. So I think there's something between them. But obviously it's a competition where anything can go. So obviously Enid and Wednesday came up with their own way of handling things. I do love, I guess, the only non-cheaters was Xavier's team, because they're the only ones that didn't do anything shady. Everyone else, like one of the purple team had axes in the side of their boats. Then like the sirens, the yellow team had had someone in the water. Is that guy supposed to be a mermaid, or is that like, because I know like sirens and mermaids, I guess it just depends on like the mythology, kind of go hand in hand in some cases. Not saying they're 1-to-1. I don't think they are. Maybe that's my mistake, but it's like, I don't know if he was supposed to be like a merman or whether that's just because I know there was a show on Freeform called Sirens, and I think they're very like fish-like in that show. So I'm like, I mean, they've always been kind of fish-like women. So it's like, I think maybe they are the same thing as mermaids. I know that because sirens are a Greek thing, but I'm like, I don't know where mermaids specifically stem from, because once again, I've always felt like they were similar. I could have sworn there's something that did sirens, but they're kind of very bird-like. But once again, that might just be me conflating that with something else. Like I could be like conflating that with harpies, but I feel like there's been some siren stuff where they were kind of more bird-like. But once again, that's kind of neither here nor there. But yeah, like I said, everyone else had a helping hand, especially Eden and Wednesday, but she also had a vision at a gravesite where some little girl was there being like, it's you or something, which part of me wonders is like, well, it was connected to the graveyard, and I was like, what's that about? And I was wondering if that was any direct correlation with like Rowan's mom having her vision about Wednesday potentially. But luckily at the end of the day, Enid and Wednesday won, and it's like, yeah, like obviously able to shove it in Bianca's face. It's like, ooh, like for Wednesday, it's like, oh, the dark, vengeful spirit of revenge. Like this is what I can get behind. I didn't know this is what the school spirit was all about. So, but there's also that interesting development where she ended up asking Thornhill about it earlier in the episode about the sigil she saw on the page that Rowan had about her, and she's trying to find the book, and it connects to some secret society at the school that like disbanded a couple years ago. So what's that all about? She ends up like finding the secret passage, and I thought was so interesting is like, right, she solved the riddles, and it was like, right, the riddle was like, the answer was like snap twice was like the end result, and I was like, okay. So then immediately my brain starts going in overdrive because I'm like, okay, So at one point she smirks and then she does the thing. So I'm wondering, like, okay, so does that mean in this continuity that Adams already had the whole like snapping thing? Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Is that already an established thing for them in this? Or is that why she was smirking? Or is she just smirking because she figured it out? Because I don't know if that's just supposed to look like a, cheeky nudge, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Or is that supposed to have a deeper connection because it's an Addams Family thing and that this is all kind of connected to Wednesday in some shape or form? Because she ended up going down there and she found like a picture of like her mom and her dad. So it's like, right. So they've had some connection to this secret society as well. So once again, this might also have something to do with Gomez is the murder that he's associated with, which we still haven't really tapped into that. The only thing we got was Wednesday being like, the only thing my father murders is like opera in the shower or something like that. So that's as much as we got on that front. Beyond that, I guess maybe she's still being like, nah, my dad has nothing. That's not my dad, but he's not a murderer, but we'll see. She ultimately finds the book, and we do see that there's another page to it, that it seems like she was kind of fighting against someone. So she grabs the book, but then she gets grabbed at the end herself, and that's where things stand. So I guess maybe remnants of that secret society still exist, and they realize that Wednesday was like looking into it, so I guess they're trying to bring her into the fold, because it might also be a thing of she's a legacy because her parents were a part of it, so it probably makes her, by birthright, she kind of has rights to be a part of it. Maybe in official capacity, it's no longer, the secret society as it was known no longer exists. Not unless we find out. I get the feeling there's a possibility Thornhill might be a part of it. Maybe not. I don't know. Just the fact that she's the one that gave Wednesday that information makes me think that there might be some correlation there. Maybe not. There's also like, wasn't quite sure what to make of that mask she found beneath Rowan's bed. She was like, oh, there might have been more to Rowan. I was like, I guess maybe because he was a part. I mean, well, it makes sense. He found the place, so he had to have been a part of that society. So maybe they can give her some answers more about Rowan's situation. I wonder the fact that Xavier knew about Rowan's obsession with Wednesday makes me wonder, is Xavier a part of that society? I just keep saying Xavier, but I think it might just be like Xavier, but either ways, you get what I'm trying to say. Very, very interested to see where this mystery and where the series ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.